Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Litquake Literary Festival. Give yourselves a round of applause. You've made it. You're out on the town, post-pandemic, vaccination. Nothing's going to stop you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Jack Bowler. I'm the co-founder of Litquake. This is our 23rd year as a literary festival, and we're so excited to be live here again in San Francisco after 3 years of whatever. What do you do in 3 years? Read, look out the window, you know? So anyway, we're here now. We have 100 events and 350 authors in 16 days. We have 3 days left of the festival, so please come out and see something else if you like. And our Lit Crawl takes place this Saturday right out in front of this venue all along Valencia Street. We have 31 events in 4 hours, so it's all for free. Come out if you like. And take one of our programs and check it out. Thank you. So tonight we are proud to present, along with ZYZZYVA, the best American poetry. 2022. It's here. All of it is here. Since 1988, I didn't know this. This is kind of interesting. The Best American Poetry series has been one of the mainstays of the poetry publication world. Each volume represents a selection of the year's most brilliant, striking, and innovative poems with comments from the poets themselves, lending insight into their work. This latest edition, guest edited by Matthew Zapruder, has selected 75 new poems that best represent American poetry today at its most dynamic. The 76th poem, not represented. Just, you know, it was like tough. So anyway, there are surveys on your chairs. Please fill these out if you have time. They're completely anonymous. The only thing that we ask is just a little bit of information that helps us apply for funding so that we can continue to bring programs for you at Litquake. So thanks to everyone at Amado's for helping out. There's cocktails upstairs. There will be more so later on. And please buy copies of this anthology. West Portal Books, give them a round. They're in the back of the room. West Portal Books. They came all the way from West Portal. There's also, if we sell out, and we may, you can actually order your own copy through West Portal Books and support your local bookstore. We also have copies of the latest issue of ZYZZYVA in the back, so please browse those and browse heavily. We would like to thank this year's sponsors of the Litquake Festival. The major sponsors include Craig Newmark Philanthropies, Grants for the Arts, the Minor Anderson Foundation, and the Brabson Library and Educational Foundation. We are video recording this event tonight, so as they say, in the music videos, hey, you might be able to get on TV. You never know. So let's get on with the show. I'm going to bring up two of the hosts. Well, there's only two hosts, really, just two, And they're going to introduce everybody, and then you'll learn more about who all the poets are on the bill. This is, by the way, one of the most insane bills of poets we've had at the festival in a long time. Very good, very good. So the people are going to bring it to you. Oscar Villalon is the managing editor of ZYZZYVA, which just won the 2022 Whiting Literary Magazine Prize, based here in San Francisco. His writing has appeared in Freeman's, the Virginia Quarterly Review, The Believer, Stranger's Guide, Literary Hub, and other publications. He lives here in San Francisco. And Matthew Zapruder, guest editor of the anthology this year, is the author most recently of Father's Day and Why Poetry. He is editor-at-large at Wave Books and teaches in the MFA in Creative Writing at St. Mary's College of California. All right. Got a day pass to go out to yeah, great. I love it. Matthew is the editor of Best American Poetry 2022, and he has a new book of prose, The Story of a Poem, which will be published by Unnamed Press in 2023. So thank you all for coming, and please welcome Matthew and Oscar.
Coming, Oscar.
I was actually going to introduce Matthew, but he's right here, which make it really easy. But before we start, I just wanted to say, just very quickly, how wonderful it is to do this with you, Matthew, and the best American poets of 2022. Thank you for inviting us to be part of this, and how wonderful it is too that so many of the poets reading tonight have been published in ZYZZYVA, which is our pleasure and our privilege to have been able to do that. And also, as someone who used to live in the Mission District before this little thing called the Ellis Act, I don't know if you guys know about that. But I'm still in the city, thankfully. How nice it is to come back to the Mission and for something as wonderful as this, is a great night of poetry. So I just want to say that really quickly, and also, yes, ZYZZYVA, we do have copies, but I only bring that up because this is our poetry issue, something we've never done before. And it's an amazing collection of poets, if you can check it out, including Matthew Zapruder, was in it, has a wonderful interview about craft, and Victoria Chang has a wonderful essay, too, about writing. I'm telling you, you won't be sorry if you go ahead and get it. And then, just very quickly before I turn it over to Matthew, poetry readings are fun. They're wonderful. I don't want to make this sound like church, at least not the church I went to. But I just wanted to say, just very, very quickly, in such uncertain times, when things are so brutish and hateful, it is always wonderful to be in a situation and circumstances in which the humane and the exalting are at the fore. So, I don't want to get too squishy, but I'm just saying, it's good for the soul. So anyway, thank you all for coming out, and I will now turn this over to Matthew Zapruder.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you all for coming. I can't see any of you. The light is apocalyptic. But anyway, it was great to see you all upstairs, and it's so nice to be back here in the Mission. It's nice it's still here. I feel like I haven't been here in 3 years. And I need to make sure I thank the people who need to be thanked. Thanks, Jack. And Litquake, awesome, incredible resource for the city. We're so lucky to have it. Thanks, West Portal Books. If you have any thought to buy a book, this book or ZYZZYVA, let's help them out. Let's keep independent bookstores in business. And I just kind of wanted to say quickly, when I got this gig of picking the poems, one of the first things the series editor, David Lehman, sternly told me was that I was not allowed in my introduction to apologize and say this actually really isn't the best American poetry. This is just my selection of the poems I happened to come across when I was, reading, but, a lot of apologizing, but it's actually totally true. You can't, it's 75 poems, but the fact is that the nomenclature best is belied by many people in this room who are not in the book, who are amazing poets and lovely, incredible contributors to our literary situation. So I just want to make sure I say that because I really do believe it. It's bullshit on some level, but I think it's also a really cool book, like on its own terms. So, you can see if you agree with me or not. But anyway, so what I'll do is I think instead of big introductions, I'm just going to tell you who's going to read, and then I'm going to read 2 poems. I'm going to read one from the book and one of my own, and then I'm going to get out of the way. And I think we're going to do this alphabetically, so now I have to do that in my head alphabetically. So tonight's first reader is William Brewer, right? And then after that, I guess, would be James Cagney, right? Victoria Chang. Is that right? I'm doing okay so far? Sorry? Somebody have a correction? No. I think Sarah Mumolo, Jenny Shee, and then Sam Sachs. Is that right? I get it? Okay, great. So I'm not going to do big introductions. I love all of them. I love their poems. People from out of town, people from in town, and just like killer poets. A great night of reading. So like I said, I'm going to do my thing real quick and get out of the way, and then William's going to come up. And so the poem I've chosen to read from the book is by Dean Young, whom we lost this year, tragically, a great American poet and a close friend, and so I just wanted to read this poem in his honor. It appeared in the magazine Conduit, which is out of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Dean Young's poem, Spark Theory. Things flow one to another. A hearse pulls up and idles. Awesome timing. It's like, that's okay. It happens to the best. So, who is it? What? Oh, okay. That seems good to have that go off. I should have set a timer like that, actually, for me. Dean Young, spark theory. Things flow one to another. A hearse pulls up and idles. Some plywood makes a peep. Dark shapes in the doorway can't be helped. It's not an insufficiency of electricity that we need worry about. The stuff's just bouncing off the streets. The hearse is yellow with pollen. The hearse almost covered with snow. There's always this flow, rowboats, marriages, upside-down rainbows of spilled gasoline. Here comes a strange mailman. Here comes a chihuahua chewing a rubber band. Here comes otherness in a flimsy dress. A bird flies into a cotton tree, a love letter crammed in a mannequin's head. What she said that day by the water with the ashes making their arabesques. Simultaneously not being here, yet being nowhere else. Occasions for evaporation, perfumes of the incinerated instants. A man carried from his own house in pieces, like a harp. Farewell, Dean. So I'm going to just read one poem. It's a bit of an older poem, but I don't know if you noticed, but America's having kind of a hard time recently, not showing its best face, maybe its true face. I wrote this poem, and I think when I was writing it, I thought I was kind of just being like pretending to feel like America, writing like a kind of hostile poem to Canada. But then I might have just turned into America when I was writing it. I don't know, so you can tell me what you think. It's just called Canada. Canada. By Canada, I've always been fascinated. All that snow and acquiescing, all that emptiness, all those butterflies marshaled into an army of peace. Moving north away from me, Canada has no border. Away like the state, its northern border withers into the sky dome. In a world full of mistrust and self-medication, I've always hated Canada. It makes me feel like I'm shouting at a child for letting a handful of pine needles run through his fist. Canada gets along with everyone, while I hang, a dark cloud above the schoolyard. I know we need war, all the skirmishes to keep our borders where we've placed them, all the migration, all the difference. Just like Canada, the Dalai Lama is now in Canada, and everyone is fascinated. When they come to visit me, no one ever leaves me saying, the most touching thing about him is he's so human. Or, I was really glad to hear so many positive ideas, regardless of the consequences expressed. Or, I could drink a case of you. No one has ever peddled every inch of thousands of roads through me to raise awareness for my struggle for autonomy. I have pity, but no respect for others, which is not compassion, just ordinary love based on attitudes toward myself. I wonder how long I can endure. In Canada, the leaves are falling. When they do, each one rustles, maybe, to the white-tailed deer of sadness. And it's clear that whole country does not exist to make me feel crappy, like a candelabra, hanging above the prison world, condemned to freely glow. So like I said, let's have William come out. Let's give everybody a big hand, and thanks so much for being here, and thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read off my phone because I forgot to print 2 of them off at work. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Matthew and ZYZZYVA. The first poem I'm going to read, I wanted to read because Victoria published it like years ago, and it's a pre-Halloween poem, which is my favorite time of year. You're just right on the edge of some weird energy. This is called House Sitting. 10-pound art book about Berlin. Black and whites of a bear rifled down in a square, boys in sun on rubble, a woman wearing a gas mask pushing a pram. I was examining each photo for a glimpse of street corner or sidewalk, wondering if it could be the spot where my ancestor, the roofer's head, smashed into the pavement when he fell, the loss that earned the payout that put his children on a boat that put me here, when I smelled something burning. But what began as an acrid odor softened to the familiar scent of bonfires, signature fragrance of the dying season. I never know where it's coming from, but in it, there's always that warm anticipation of Halloween I remember. And within that, the disappointment when it was never like the movies. No New England facades, no sidewalks choked with kids. There weren't enough of us. And yet I hear children's laughter like I'm there again, not in the memory, but the expectation. Outside the window, a girl is filming on her phone another girl tossing handfuls of red maple over her head. I can see on screen the video playing in a short, closed loop. The leaves go up, then are rewound into her hands, never falling all the way into the grass over which they're scattered now, after she dropped them when, suddenly, a fire truck blared by, awaking at my feet the dog I'm paid to keep alive. Thank you. It's very generous. This is another dog poem, which I didn't realize until right this second. This is called Strays. It was only after waking for the first time in years beside a stranger, in that gray valley where morning hasn't yet taken responsibility, that I thought I understood at last why the man from the bar who never spoke, but drank quietly every day at the same seat for the same hours, and whom I was once paid to follow home, would sit in his small living room and call the pound on speakerphone and ask about a dog that didn't exist, so that when the receptionist went walking through the kennels holding the cordless receiver, looking for the dog that wasn't, you could hear all hell rattling in the cages, thrashing the chains. Could almost sense, even from where I was standing outside his window, looking through a break in the curtains, the drool shining on the teeth bared in the black, dank holes, how enough abandoned things screaming could make a sound large enough to find a rhythm in it, which is to say, something dependable. I woke next to no one, and when she woke, I was no one for a minute too. Thank you. And then this last one is, I grew up in West Virginia in a sort of isolated part of the world, and a good chunk of that was before the internet really worked. And it was like there, but it just hummed a lot. And so I had a real attachment to Anthony Bourdain, because that's like how I learned what the world looked like, was through that television. And I was very, very upset when he passed away. And this poem was originally published in ZYZZYVA, a magazine I adore, and has made me feel like I belong in the Bay since the minute I got here. So thank you to ZYZZYVA, and thank you for Matthew for including it. This is called Anthony Bourdain. The more money we come across, the less tarot we do. The more we chew in silence, staring at palm trees glazed red on wall tiles, the heads of actual palms lining the drive-through, masked with smoke from burning paradise. For a week, it's lined our lungs. Driving home, I strain to see the exit signs and toll booth structures as the radio debates ways to stop the kids from smoking Juuls between advertisements for cleaning solutions I'll use after the rains have come to make our rooms smell like rooms I've never lived in, which are the rooms I most prefer. 2 months now we've been married. It feels the same, but different. Men stopped mentioning fucking the same thing forever, and everyone else started asking about the future, sometimes just saying the word for no reason. I'd compliment the Beaujolais, and then, in the future, you should consider looking into, over and over, until the word began to radiate in my mind. I find myself spelling it out, letter by letter, on the roof of my mouth while up late folding t-shirts. And now it's 2, and I'm beside you in bed, envisioning the ripples on my celestial sleepy time herbal tea as I dropped in my CBD oil, meaning both products have failed me once again, and I feel like I deserve it. For 10 years, I fell asleep watching him wander old world cities and chew the fattened parts of animals. But he's been dead since June. Now, I can't get through an episode. The future like a residue on every frame. How it was there the whole time, but I failed to see it. We felt like him, we said once in a foreign country, after a farmer directed us into a cave. At its end, a secret altar carved into the limestone by the once persecuted, candles burning in little scooped out shelves of rock, a bowl of oil, a vacant space meant for a holy text. To get there, the farmer told us to walk until we feel like we should stop, then walk some more. And so we did until the sun glow of the entrance faded, then disappeared as we disappeared in blackness absolute, and stopped. And then you whispered, "Can you see me?" "No," I said, "but I know where you are." Thank you.
Yeah, up next reading poetry is James Cagney. And good evening, how you guys are. It is a great, great honor to be here with you live and in person and back in this venue. Wow. First poem is very, very new. This is called Benediction of Wildflowers. It is fire season, and our brittle hands pantomime apologies for the annual apocalypse of flowers. Bearded hillsides, guilty of thirst and flamboyant with color, brace against an indifferent baptism of fire. A riot of rhododendrons, a tidal wave of tulips lift and snap mid-air, a crimson and maroon carpet igniting into shades of red that eats with merciless impatience. Hot teeth clogged with Mojave popcorn and tarweed seeds. The fire's yellow thatch of hair whipping wildly on the news. Its fists pummeling Mariposa lilies into black graffiti. Jesus walked on water without support of lotus leaves, but had no conversation for fire. No sermons, no laying on of hands to chill, just bunching up the hem of his garment against its scarlet ember fingers. The sun bashfully conceals its razor smile behind a folding fan of smoke. The benediction of wildflowers, their prayers overruled, a congregation of perennials dissolve beneath the erasure of the Holy Ghost. Let the church's windows be stained with the blood of crushed angels' trumpets, sky lupine, Douglas iris, blue flax, the air choking from the confessed afterlife of their pretty ghosts. Flowers never advance to corpse, just ash. Only burned roses can forgive God's deafness to prayers and panic. Wildflowers that understand the scripture of stillness dream sunlight in their nitrogen-rich beds. Yeah, let's do, this is the piece that's in Best American, and it is called Proof. My body has a legend, he says, mid-story, and wipes his mouth. Then, as to recite grace, stands at the table to prove it. Beneath the drape of his shirt, a savanna of skin ripples slightly. For a blink, I don't understand what's missing. He had no belly button. His stomach paved mythologically clean. We'd been so casual, playing catch with origin stories, after class, over crepes and pancakes, our roll call of scars. We'd been speaking of doctors and mistakes when his face shifted gears. He landed his fork like tapping a baton. This is how boys are. Show and prove, tail of the tape. People are terrified by skin not meeting their expectations. For years, white women were forbidden from showing their navels on TV. The networks were alarmed over what they symbolized, how they seemed to prove something, root us together. Seeing the placenta as nebula, a starfield of skin, a chandelier from which we're all suspended, flaring out from the same light. If men can write shame laws over belly buttons, it's no surprise the fumbling of a black child steaming new and helpless in a cage of fingers, a rabbit midwifed by a hawk. I know this now, yet how I doubted him, Lord. My sticky maple fingers trembled in prayer all night. And then really quick, this poem's called America I Am. I come from the kidnapped, the assaulted. My country 'tis of reparations as in-store credit back-ordered to bankruptcy. It is me and my trophy wife passing as a dream of some kind. All I want is 40 dead mules and an acre of land with a lighthouse right above the porch of the great Atlantic Ocean, just in case any of my ancestors tasted nasty and made it. I come from a people who pay a penalty every sunrise and divinate to paroled gods with rancid hog maws. The stripes plowed into my grandfather's back will have to stand in for our family album. Somebody threw some stars at my grandmama's head and said, bet you won't ask for no freedom no more. Natives in prison issue war bonnets say, I come from a poisoned land that recycles children into artillery shells and where dark skin is as good as an invisibility cloak until the police arrive. I am proud to be a blank where I can hold my head up and drown in the downpour of state-sanctioned cancer. I am proud to hold my place in back of the line. I come from a land that's open all night like a shotgun wound. And as for y'all tired, y'all poor, y'all huddled masses yearning to breathe free, fuck y'all. I come from a place promising a burning cross in every yard and 2 meth labs in every garage. And when I say meth lab, I mean golden retrievers smoking crank. The country I come from, I can flash all its gang signs and beatbox all their anthems. I come from a place, actually, I don't know where I come from. I just know I woke up here. My babies were gone, my house was on fire, and I couldn't breathe. Thank you, guys.
Now we have choice. You messed it up for all of us. Thanks for coming, and thanks to all the readers, and thanks to Matthew, Oscar, Litquake. I'm just going to read. I keep changing my mind based on what everyone else is reading, so I'm just going to read a couple poems, and I'll kind of figure it out as I go. Let me check my time. Okay, 19. My mother's teeth. Died twice, once in 1965, all pulled out from gum disease, once again on August 3rd, 2015. The fake teeth sit in a box in the garage. When she died, I touched them, smelled them, thought I heard a whimper. I shoved the teeth into my mouth, but having 2 sets of teeth only made me hungrier. When my mother died, I saw myself in the mirror, her words around my mouth like powder from a donut. Her last words were in English. She asked for a Sprite. I wonder whether her last thought was in Chinese. I wonder what her last thought was. I used to think that a dead person's words die with them. Now I know that they scatter, looking for meaning to attach to, like a scent. My mother used to collect orange blossoms in a small, shallow bowl. I passed the tree each spring. I always knew that grief was something I could smell, but I didn't know that it's not actually a noun, but a verb, that it moves. So I'll just read a few tiny poems. They're like little miniature poems that are all in syllable forms, various syllable counts. And they use W.S. Merwin's titles as their own titles. And then I'll read a couple new poems, and then I'll be done. Okay. Losing a language. We're born with a large door on our backs. When will we know if it opens? Snowfall. We say the snow falls, but it really seizes. Because it is light, it takes 7 years to grab. By the time it does, the old wars are over, and my mother is dead. But it lands on the new wars, melts on a different mother. Still morning. No mornings are still. The newly dead move the most. They force flowers to dilate. I'll skip that one. The string. Half of the tree is in my window, the same half I see each weekend, where addictions ebb and flow, where desire is a needle I shoot myself with. When the earth rotates, a person not tied down with longing falls off into space. Rain at night. To be the last drop of rain each night is sadness. It shuts the last door and jumps. I'll read one more of these tiny ones. It's so dark up here. I have really bad vision. The lovers. There is a wildfire starving on top of a lake. See how the water holds fire but cannot end it? We insist on love when all we want is mercy. I'll just read 2 new poems. They're ekphrastic poems based on the painting of Agnes Martin. I don't know if anyone knows. Does anyone know? Everyone knows who Agnes Martin is, right? Yeah. But they're grid paint. Like, she does a lot of grid stuff. And so this one actually doesn't have any grids, but it's called Starlight 1962. Suppose the stars are just our grief reflected back to us, proof that grief sometimes forgets its source, that it can find dead things no matter how distant. Everyone arrives one day and asks, "Is this it?" And the stars answer back with more stars. I wonder if Agnes started at the bottom or at the top, if she went left to right or right to left. There's no use in wondering if the canvas was on the floor or on a table. To ask questions is to be distracted by point of view. Point of view has a terrible memory. I've looked at photos scrolling up and over, zooming in and out, and realize it is not love I want, just the ability to zoom back out. A woman loses herself when she can no longer zoom out. Agnes knew that love exists because of the distance of starlight, that desire is the only thing with nerve endings, that it drips, that it dries faster in the desert. She knew to paint it vertically, but to hang it horizontally. And I'll read one more. It's called Friendship, 1963. This is actually in the MoMA in New York. It's this huge 10 by 10 gold thing that's just really gorgeous. If you ever get a chance to see it, it's really beautiful. I came to the city so I could see gold, When I arrived, though, the leaves were gold too, and I became confused. I called the front desk 4 times, and Angel answered each time. By the 3rd call, he ended with, "Talk soon." In the morning, a different man answered, and I burst into tears. On 53rd Street, small children kept on running into me. A father yelled so loudly at the boy on the scooter that I thought he knew I was carrying death on my back. By the time I arrived at the museum, there was a long line. The bald man in front of me kept turning around to look at me. I could tell by his forehead that he could hurt me. When I finally found the room, I was the only one in there. Everyone else was below me in the Picasso room. When I stared at the gold rectangles, 2 attendants talked about whether to work overtime and get paid time and a half. I wanted to tell them that there's no such thing as time, just time and a half. Sometime in the night, Ital Adnan had died. I had just seen her paintings the day before. The crowds were large, and I wondered whether our looking had accelerated her death. When I took a photo of Agnes's piece, I saw my dark reflection on the gold. I started counting the grids, but the bald man came up next to me. Suddenly, there were 2 dark shadows on the gold. I asked him to step away, but when he said no, it was Agnes's voice. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you can't see anything up here. Hi. You can say hi back, and then I know you're there. Thank you to Matthew and to Litquake, to ZYZZYVA, and it's an honor to read with all of these poets. I'm going to read 3 poems about climate and familial ghosts. And then, you can find me at the bar later and I'll tell you a joke. Trauma note. You ask if the author really wants to cup the moon. We both know it's not true, but it's so nice to give the reader a beautiful lie. I am a great beauty eating a heart of solid fire with my pretty serrated knife. See, the heart sometimes lies so good that giant trails of fire burn through neighborhoods, following an ancient path. It can be the total yearning for someone to hold up a lifted sheet. It can be sold in a bundle, or the smell of burnt toast. It cannot be being. It sounds like smoke because we invent detectors. Fire makes a bad lover, the rumor goes. Deny everything, the utility company's policy. Not a lie. We fled for gas stations under the fire's yellow nightlight. Cars lined up forever down River Road. Landlords rent gouge. What can he do? One guy saved a pack of antelope by pushing the male leader through a firewall until others follow. He owns a safari park in wine country. It's true. You can go there. Another couple waited in their pool for hours, no moon, just 2 heads bobbing above chlorinated water, 2 heads fenced by flames. There's a 100-year flood coming soon, a flood we don't know about yet. Do you know why I like it here? No, not the knives. It's a haunted color here, and I like haunted colors. Trauma note. What color are errors? In my phone, there's an app. In the app, there's a place for notes. In the notes live thoughts addressed to you. In the dream, you wear a dress of pampas grass. The thing that tempers fire is flood. Smeared in oily mud during cleanup, a tweakerish dude rolls by asking if we lost a kayak. It floated by him when he could no longer walk through the waist-high water, trying to get to his mother's house. In my house, I am a mother. My mother comes in and out of focus, a caregiver, a survivor, a noun that breaks into plural. On the porch, bodies sit smoking. In language, I queer ourselves. I pet the grass. Water reaches the top step. Why hasn't the electricity gone out? Out there in flames, I'm not imaginative. I see my body cast into a life. Armoires light up, leg cups overflow. We travel deep into the house, diving in and out of notes, while the river rises all around us. My sister's old Jeep, submerged, drowning her volumes on astrology and healing spirits. How will we get to work? wiping the mud off the ghost photos with rags and drying them out in the river's sun. Every fall, the coast reliably grows its grass. Do you want to save your brother's old clothes? Jacob asks, holding open the lid of the flooded trunk. No, I say, lying. Coffin poem, that's what I'll call you. Brother's coffin smattered with high school girl lips colored manic pink and Big Apple red. Coffin girls. You can buy a coffin at Costco. I got kicked off the membership after the divorce. Bury me in a bodysuit of thorns, so when they come for me, I wound them. And you, Auntie, you spoke at the services. 5 funerals, 5 years. You had a good thing going. Asking the audience to stand and applaud a life. Fuck, that felt good. Reader, every visit to a cemetery, to a coffin suspended over a hole serenades us with drinks. Error's color is scrape red, you answer. Another humid autumn day, before we knew that even weather, too, is an emergency, is dread. Grief poem, let the sunshine in. Grief poem, that's what I'll call you. Grief, you look like a thurible swinging over a coffin, over a black hole over dresses, suits, sweating it out, wanting. Grief, you're the off-season rain, the flood we waded through to save the car seat. Grief, it's over between us. It's okay. Pretty soon, 2 of these guys will be drunk in the front yard throwing punches. No one calls the cops. Dad's on parole. The story goes, the police shot Aunt Palma's husband in her own backyard. Her son never really was a leader. Shopping for coffins, our bodies gape. Lid propped open so we can touch the white satin bedding that waits for your body. Palms scraped from applause. Your bloodless face while mother kisses your cheek, leaving a stain. Your face in the coffin. Your face. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for saying hi back. Yes, everyone is right. It is quite hard to see up here. Thank you so much to Matthew, Oscar, Jack, and Litquake. And I'm honestly pretty starstruck by my co-readers. And I'm okay with that. I hope to always have a part of me living in this place of awe. I'm gonna start with a poem called Little Fires. It feels fitting. It was where I first met both Oscar and Matthew many years ago, because this poem was published in ZYZZYVA. So this is Little Fires. Can I have a light for the blizzard? You look at me like, when will there be a blizzard in California? Did I tell you I almost died in a blizzard? Twice. Once when I was 5, driven across the country with half-filled suitcases and a beat-up sedan, warming my hands in a blurry Denny's. My mother giving me medicine with ice cream, hands shaking so she dropped some on the table. How it hurt to spend money we didn't have on ice cream in December. The other time, it was summer in San Francisco after my mother died. Every day, trudging through fog, thick and cold and aimless, like always fresh snow. It's how I imagine frozen quicksand must feel, except snow gets inside you, slinks into your shoes and clings to your pores and filches all your warmth until you start thinking, maybe, I can lie down and won't feel it. I sank my hands in the pockets of my mother's old coat and felt a match. I told myself I wouldn't only read sad poems, but the ones I selected were all sad, so I'm going off script with this one. This is Telomeres and a 2 a.m. love poem. These are the only kind I'll write you when I should be reading about telomeres, how they guard the ends of chromosomes and wane with every breath we take, leaving fragments of ourselves behind as our cells grow and divide and become ever more vulnerable as we grow older. I have the sudden brilliant thought that the chromosomes in our heart cells must have the shortest telomeres of all. And I think how I can only admit that I might tolerate / love you when my science becomes this bleary-eyed, delirious brain mush. These nights, I look at you sleeping and want to press my lips to your forehead, tug a corner of the sheet from beneath your arm, tuck myself in its place. Come morning, you'll be just a heavy arm slung across my stomach, too warm body curled around my spine. But now I think mad thoughts, like how maybe you could be an exception, and how maybe I could do this every night, and how maybe we could let our telomeres shorten together. Thank you. And I will read one newer poem. This one. Take this body. There are 30 trillion cells birthed from the first ancestral cell in this body. Every single cell has inherited the same instructions for mapping this body. What is it like to move about the world without feeling weight? Every choice, not choice, heavy with millennia of blood, blades, flesh trapping this body. When I was 5, a boy brought a model heart to show and tell. Blue beads rattled against plastic veins. My heart pumps blue blood in wrapping this body. Once when I was a child in the library, a man stooped to ask for help finding books. When my mother found me, I felt the newness of danger overlapping this body. How many times did I look in the mirror, pinch flab on my arms, my hips, even my eyelids, count my inheritance, measure shames racking this body? I used to run at night when I boiled over, tried my best to run past fear, past grief, past rage, past nerves, past me running circles battling this body. When I was 20, I went to the hospital weak with fever. That week, a machine breathed for me. I was a machine overheating, lost sapping this body. Asked about my relationship with food, I talk about my mother, blood, waste, a poem. I have no words except others for what's handicapping this body. I spent a week in the mountains. I never feel belonging, but they remind me they belong to no one. For millennia, they will keep surpassing this body. American media has popularized qi as the Chinese word for breath, also a homophone for rage, for beginning, for the mountains held within this body. Thank you.
Good evening. Nothing? Come on now. Yo, what an honor to be reading poems with y'all. This has been a really spectacular reading. And grateful to be included. Cool. So I ran a reading series here from 2010 to 2013. And that was the last time I've been in this basement. It was Viracocha at the time. Did anyone go to readings here? couple people. Okay, yeah, cute. All right, so this is a poem I wrote for that space. It's called Ode to the Basement in Viracocha, 2010 to 2013. Below Valencia, behind a door made of books, below antique peacock fascinators and duo repairing typewriters with crooked teeth, below the library of petrified books and the bathroom of books with its clawfoot ketamine books, is the basement I grew old in, is the basement I was young. One staircase in and one out, which is, according to California law, quite illegal, which means everything that happened here, even breathing, was a transgression. Basement I tasted blood in, basement I drew breath in. We began as all of us on a street corner saying poems over trains yawning open and closed below us. We made songs from suffering glass. Rock caught street lights and it was perfect until the cops came and Christian got stabbed. And who hasn't been changed by the nature of light? Then Jonathan rented this building and opened the basement for all of us to huddle inside and comb smoke through our hair, to claw at reason through a vintage microphone. Basement I ate love in, basement I made blood. Once I was young, I was a lamentation, a slut for suffering boys, hungry for ochre and old ways of thinking, old before I turned 26 and was already dead. I was 23 and swallowing opiates, preying on language. How is it over a decade ago I learned how many bones there are in the human body and wrote a poem about it as a kind of failure? What else did I learn to hold? A room like a confession written and folded into the palm of a hand. Basement I lapped grief in, basement I tamed church. And crouched just there, behind the soundboard, I gaped as friends tamed addictions and broke each other into bread. And we celebrated the birth of a free university that ended the year it began, and accordion faggots, and everyone got in free, oblivious to the world above. And all 6 deaths we drank clear liquors from, though each of their names are gone from us, basement. When I say this place is a subculture, I mean bacterial. I mean below the surface of the world is strange organs, is Abaddon, Sheol, Tehom, Tophet. I mean a tongue cut from the rafters is still singing here. Basement I drank blood in. Basement I stapled books into the wall with my head. Where I ate men like air sirens, was debased and spit angels into the mouth of the basement. And Nick quoted the saints from memory, passing the word around like it might just save us. One night, after hours, after the businesses spread their industrial cleaners down the avenues and the doors locked above, I worshipped at the foot of the thinnest boy, who said God once, filled my mouth and never left, who died 6 months later, and what remains is still intact, imprinted in the rafters, book turned to stone, unincorporated ghost, all 206 bones of him untying his shoes and slowly folding his pants. Once we are gone, we return to the basement. Once we returned, we'd eat dirt with our hands. There is nothing on earth that does not love us, despite us. Despite what we've done to this place. There is one way in and endless ways out. There is no God that only builds one staircase. Yeah. I sucked a lot of dick down here. And yeah, it's weird to be here. This is the most formative writing space and cocksucking place in my life. Okay, and on that tip, I saw my partner slink in, and I have a poem I wanted to read for them. So I've been in this 6, almost 7-year relationship, and we're both non-binary and poly, and so we often struggle with the language we use to describe each other. So this is for them. Glad you came. What to call you who I've slept beside through so many apocalypses? The kind that almost occur nightly in this late stage of the collapsing West. Boyfriend was fine, even though we are neither boys nor men, but love, how it makes us sudden infants in the eyes of any listener, how it brings us back to some childhood we never got to live. That was, at least at the time, unlivable. My sweetheart, my excised sheep's heart, my fled garden, my metal garter. After yet another man calls his wife his partner at the dog park, it's clearly become time to find another name for you. He says it's my partner's birthday and we're going to Buca de Beppo, then Cancun. And wild, how quick a name becomes yet another vehicle through which to reproduce violence. Partner fit like a skin, then that skin tightened and tore off. You who are neither my chain Italian restaurant, nor my spring break vacation spot, not my owner, or my only, or my own, not my down payment or dowry of sheep and crop, not lost, not loss. Apophasis is a way of naming what is by what is not, but what is. My boutonniere, my goofy queer, my salt, my silk, my silt, my slit, my top and my basement, my vanquished prostate, my battered apostate, my memory, my meteor. All these names for what exactly? To introduce what is to those who don't know. This is my whole. This is my whole. Take all of me. And I think I forgot to say that the poem is called My Whole, with both spellings of whole. Are there other spellings of whole? 2 of them. Pick your poison. Okay, I got one more poem because I want to follow the trend. This was really special. I have a book about pigs coming out in the fall. Yay! Let's go, pig fans. So this is coming out next fall, and this is one from the book. And it's called xenotransplantation, which is a process by which you put a bit of a animal organ into a human organ, because science is magic. Silence is magic. Yep. Okay. So this is a poem for a friend of mine who had part of a pig's heart in his human heart. My friend's got a pig heart in him. I guess I didn't need that intro. Or my friend's got part of a pig's heart, a piece. His heart's part pig. The aortic valve is the dog god guarding the tube blood runs through once it's been scrubbed clean. One of 2 semi-lunar valves which sounds like a part of a moon, a piece. My friend's got moons in him, separating the 2 major atria. My friend's filled with ballrooms, those dark vaulted ceilings. My friend's a vegan. My friend's a vegan with a pig heart, thumping club music. My friend believes the pig in him is vegan too, since it eats what he eats, speaks when he speaks. The pig heart pulses in his chest like a reflection of the moon in a puddle out behind the club once we finished dancing. My friend takes drugs so his body doesn't reject the organ. My friend takes drugs so he can go on dancing. His pig, grown to be sewn into a man's ribs, unnaturally selected. No god could have predicted this in any garden. Still, holy, the bit of tissue that lets him live and live. Thin miracle that set another 17 years going inside him. If you listen close with one ear to his chest, you can hear the pig heart singing, calling out to any listening animal. All I want is to live and live and live. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming. That was amazing. Yeah. I love that reading. I don't want to go all the way back up. Thank you.
You just stay there, Matthew. It's fine. We have our bookstore is open in the back for both copies of the anthology and of ZYZZYVA. How about a hand for all these great readings tonight? So amazing. Thank all of you for coming, and thank all of the poets for sharing your work. It was beautiful. And Litquake Festival runs through this Saturday, so litquake.org for the details. Thank you all.